Welcome to Tina's Treasure Trunk, and this is Tina. Tonight I'm going to talk about some of the things that I've been canning in preparation for winter. And our garden has been a bust the third year in a row. 3 years ago I broke my foot in the end of July of 2023, and so my husband had to finish harvesting our garden that year as I sat on the back deck and prepped all the vegetables and then did the canning, but he had to go out to the garden and do all the picking. So that was kind of a letdown. And then the summer of 2024, Ron had a complete knee replacement on his right knee. And so we didn't do a garden that year because there were a lot of things I needed his help on. Making repairs to our drip system and hooking up the water system in general and making repairs to the greenhouse. So that was just something that was not an option. So last year was basically our year of Jubilee for the garden. So we did give it a rest last year. So it really wasn't a total wash. It was just something that it worked out where we just did our year of Jubilee. This year we went back to our gardening and we did a modified version of our garden since we're just kind of getting back into it again. So we have 12 small raised beds that are about 2 feet high and about 3 by 3 feet in diameter. And then we've got several, what do I call them? Other raised beds that are made out of old stock tanks where the bottoms have been rusted out. So we have repurposed those for raised beds, and Ron has done some really cute work around those raised beds to make them look a little more where they fit into the natural elements a little more. And then I have 3 14-foot long by 4-foot wide and 3-foot high raised beds. So 2 of those long raised beds I got filled up. 2 of our stock tanks I got filled up with stuff. And then my short raised beds I did all in green beans. Well, with the smaller raised beds, I think I got about 10 green beans, which I'm going to just let them dry out, and I'll use the seeds from those to start next year again. But it was the first time that I did my green beans in the short raised beds, and we have so many rabbits that are just flourishing and some squirrels that are just making themselves to home. And so they've been demolishing my green bean plants. And then I have 4 tomato plants in the smallest greenhouse that I have. And then I have 2 pepper plants. Well, the plants in the greenhouse are looking fantastic. And I got about a dozen green peppers so far, but none of my tomato plants have produced a darn thing. But the plants look really pretty. It's just they haven't given me any tomatoes at all. So what we've done this year is I've gone to 2 different farmers markets, and I have gotten 25 pounds of onions, a bushel of tomatoes, and 33 pounds of jalapeno peppers. And all of the onions I've done in my dehydrator, which is a cord dehydrator that we got from Bass Pro Shop, and it's a 12 tray dehydrator, and so it holds quite a lot. But when it came to my dehydrator, I wanted to go big or go home. So Ron was kind enough to get me a dehydrator probably 5 years ago for my Mother's Day gift. And then I have a small little home style slicer, a little Nesco slicer that we probably got at Walmart, and I've had it for about 15 years, maybe a little longer. And that's how I sliced up my onions and then laid them out on trays. And I have 3.5 half-gallon jars full of sliced dehydrated onions. And this will last me a little over a year. So when I run out of fresh onions, I'll just take a handful of the dried onions and crumble them up into whatever I'm cooking and use my dehydrated onions, because we're about 12 miles away from the nearest grocery store, and I'm not going to go to the grocery store just for onions. And pardon me as I turn away. But the tomatoes, I made 12 jars of pasta sauce, and I just used the Mrs. Wages package of seasoning to make the pasta sauce, and it is a fantastic flavor, and it just makes it easier for me to just use the Mrs. Wages product as opposed to trying to keep all the spices and herbs that I need to keep separately to make pasta sauce. Then I have the pasta sauce. I got about 12 pints of that done up, and then with my diced tomatoes I got another 12 or 14 pints of diced tomatoes. So it'll be great for chilies, spaghetti sauce, marinara for pasta, chicken marinara or whatever. And then I got about 30 jars of my homemade ketchup. Some of the name brand ketchups have Caro syrup in them, and regardless of whether you're diabetic or not diabetic, Caro syrup is one of the worst things you can ingest. My ketchup recipe does have a little bit of sugar in it, and the sugar amount is still not good for you, but I'd rather have the sugar than the Caro syrup. And then when I did the jalapenos, I did about 20 jars of sliced jalapenos, pickled jalapenos, and then about 20 jars of the whole jalapenos. And they're all pickled. And we like the whole peppers when we have fried chicken. And you take a pepper and just have a bite of pepper, and then you have a bite of chicken. But we still love it, but as we're getting older, it doesn't like us as much as what we like it. And then probably May timeframe, May or June, our wonderful neighbors just to the west of us gave us maybe about the equivalent of half a bushel of peaches. So I was blessed to be able to get about 15 jars of canned peaches, and then we'll have a taste of summer during the middle of winter. And probably the end of this week, beginning of next week, I'll be picking the pears off my pear tree in the front of the house. And my neighbor boys, they love coming over to help me pick my pears. And so I'll probably get about a dozen jars of canned pears. I have tried making spiced pear jam, and I think it's okay. It tastes okay, but my family's not that fond of spiced pear jam. So I've quit making that, and it's not a very good seller when I go to the craft shows either. So I've just gone to making straight pears canned so that we can just have fruit, another type of fruit during the winter months. Also, I will try to add some of my recipes to this post in the notes so that you guys can see how I do it for my canning. And with my fruit, when I can my peaches or my pears, I do a low sugar syrup, because regardless of your health, you're better off not having as much sugar in your syrup and letting the natural fruit flavor shine through more of the flavor than the sugar syrup. So I hope you guys enjoyed this bit of information, and there are so many recipes online that you could look up just about any kind of recipe you want, but I'll still try to share my recipes as we go along, the ones that I feel like are my favorites. So I hope you enjoyed the time tonight, and we'll talk to you again soon. Thanks for watching.